If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, like, and share so we can find others like yourself. BitcoinBasicsPodcast.com. I think Bitcoin debit cards are probably the way of the future and how most Bitcoiners are going to be spending their Bitcoins online and in person.
Welcome to the Bitcoin Basics Podcast with your host Ferris, that's me, and Gordon from CoinCompass.com, enabling you to safely buy and securely store your Bitcoins. All resources are in the show notes and description, including our full disclaimer. Visit BitcoinBasicsPodcast.com to subscribe and discover other free content. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Bitcoin Basics Podcast with your hosts Ferris and Gordon. It is Friday, April 3rd, coming up to 6:30 UTC time. And Gordon, can you tell us how that translates to time on the blockchain and where we are with Bitcoin right now?
I sure can. The current block time or block height is 624,174 for 3rd of April 2020. And the current price of Bitcoin is 6,789 according to Bitstamp, which is, I think, $19 above where we specified it was 15 minutes ago.
So yeah, our previous podcast, which we just finished recording, tackled the question of a 51% attack. And Gordon, what's our question for today?
Hi, I'm interested in using Bitcoin for buying things online. Is this going to come in the future? I won't need to use my credit card and have payments and interest on that. Will Bitcoin be something that I can use?
Interesting question. Good practical question. Faris, do you want to take the first stab at that?
Yeah, so with this one, I know it's been a contentious issue amongst people because you did have a lot of companies, from my understanding, like Amazon, Microsoft, I can't think of a big one now, but basically accept Bitcoin. And then 2017, 2018, they stopped accepting Bitcoin as payment. Criticism being it was just too slow to confirm transactions because it can take, right at the time, it took 10 minutes for a transaction to process. And when you're buying stuff online, just waiting around for 10 minutes for that transaction to process was simply too long. So, to be honest, I have not looked at this aspect of Bitcoin for some time, who is using it, which merchants are accepting Bitcoin. So you can pay for stuff in Bitcoin, but the merchants that you're going to, they actually need to be set up to accept it. So the issue is not you paying. It's the other side, the merchants need to be set up to accept it. So yeah, I haven't looked at this one in quite some time, Gordon. What about you? You'd be more up to date than I am.
Yeah, so I'm going to mention a few companies, products and services. Just a disclaimer, we are not endorsed, they are not sponsors, they are not advertising. These are just our opinions. So I'll put all those links in the description of the video and the show notes as well. So I guess in the end, Faris is right. There are a lot of businesses that used to accept Bitcoin, but they no longer do it for the reasons Faris said. Bit of a pain in the ass to set up, to be honest, and all the tax, legal implications. What do you do? Do you hold it? Do you sell it? You know, that kind of stuff. I won't go down this rabbit hole, but that is slowly changing with the Lightning Network. So the Lightning Network makes it a lot faster. And there is still a friction of getting from local currency into Bitcoin. But once you do have the Bitcoin, it makes it a lot easier with, say, Lightning, which is pretty much instantaneous. But Faris is right. There aren't many businesses that accept Bitcoin nowadays. And so the question is really about, can I spend Bitcoin? How would I do it? Would I use a credit card? Is it going to replace that? In my mind, there's really three possibilities or three ways you can tackle this. One is you can spend Bitcoin directly. Find your local pizza shop, fish and chip shop, or online store that accepts Bitcoin, and then you send Bitcoin straight from your mobile wallet, or your Bitcoin wallet, to that merchant. Now, it may take 10 minutes with normal Bitcoin. With Lightning Bitcoin, I'll put a link to our episode in the show notes. That is almost instantaneous. Of course, the prerequisite is you have to have Bitcoin in the first place. So how are you going to get Bitcoin? That's another thing. And whether you want to actually spend your Bitcoin or not is a discussion for another time. But that's probably why Faris and I don't spend any Bitcoin, because we don't want to spend our Bitcoin. We want to get rid of our dirty, I wouldn't say useless, but not as good money before we get rid of our Bitcoin. So there's really three ways. One is to spend it directly. As I mentioned, find a store that accepts it. Two is to indirectly spend it. And what I mean by that is you can convert Bitcoin into something like a gift card or a voucher, and then use that to then purchase something that the merchant doesn't actually accept Bitcoin. So for example, one of the biggest sites is actually purse.io. So what you can do is go onto the website, send your Bitcoin, say $100 US worth, and purse.io will actually give you $100 Amazon voucher. So then you can just go to Amazon and purchase whatever you want as per normal. The other big one is called Bitrefill. And I actually used that for purchasing a couple of apps on Google Play, because for whatever reason, I didn't have local currency. So I went to Bitrefill and got $10 worth of Google Play credit. And that Bitcoin that got converted into that voucher. So actually, Bitrefill has a lot of vouchers, pretty much for Netflix, Apple, Google, Steam, all kinds of stuff. So if you were thinking of using your Bitcoin, that's probably about the best way to do it. They also offer a lot of discounts. So that's a fairly good use case for it. So up to 10 or sometimes 20% on those discounts. And as a side note, it's actually interesting, and this is maybe a discussion for another podcast, Faris. There's actually sort of like a secondary economy coming out of this. So for example, if you were a web designer or some sort of contractor in a developing country, you might get paid in Bitcoin. So the person in the US or Europe or Australia, whatever, is paying you, and you're in Kenya or wherever you are. They're paying in Bitcoin because that's easy for them to do that. But you can't spend that money in Kenya. So what's actually happening is people are converting those Bitcoins into vouchers and then using those vouchers to buy products and services, or even using those vouchers to then go back into the local economy. So I actually find that fascinating, that different economy.
Do you want to learn how to safely buy and securely store your Bitcoins? CoinCompass.com is running a free 2-hour webinar on Sunday, 31st of May. To register and for more details, visit CoinCompass.com/webinar.
And then the third sort of way to spend is to use a Bitcoin debit card, which we've mentioned on previous podcasts. So what you do is you get a Bitcoin debit card there are several providers and several companies. The one that I'm trying to get at the moment is actually called Embliy, E-M-B-I-Y. And what happens is you get that card, and then on their website, you send Bitcoin essentially to that card. So you send $100 worth of Bitcoin to that card, and that card is actually a MasterCard. So basically, wherever MasterCard is accepted at a store or online or even in an ATM, you can do a withdrawal into local currency or pay for something. It's not a credit card, so obviously you have to have enough money funded to the card. But that's another way to use your Bitcoin. So that was a very long answer. But, last but not least, you could also use it to donate to charities. So BitGive is one of the largest and prominent foundations in the Bitcoin space, and they do some amazing projects around the globe. So I'm not sure of the tax implications, whether that's tax deductible or not, but yeah, that's obviously something else that you could do with your Bitcoin. So Faris, I've rambled on for long enough. Any other use cases for how to use Bitcoins?
No, it's really good. So yeah, I was familiar with some of those sort of peripheries that Bitcoin was being used at. So I think, from what I could understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Gordon, was I think some companies jumped on pretty soon to Bitcoin. Maybe it was more a branding exercise than anything. And then they realized, I think Bitcoin just maybe wasn't ready then. And whereas now we're starting to see, rather than go straight from Bitcoin directly to online shopping with Amazon or something else, you are starting to see these other use cases, as you mentioned. But will it be a time where you can just basically go to Amazon and do Bitcoin direct like a QR code? Or will we always have to look at Lightning Network or some of these alternatives that you mentioned?
Well, never say never. I mean, people make predictions and they make fools out of themselves in 5 years, so I'm kind of reluctant to do that. But it seems unlikely that someone like Amazon would want to accept Bitcoin. I can see Amazon, Microsoft, and some of these other big stores and platform providers coming out with their own cryptocurrencies, their own corporate coins, like Facebook. PayPal obviously is a use case as well. So why not use Amazon with Amazon Coin? Why not use Microsoft with Microsoft Coin? I can kind of see that happening, corporate coins. And of course, that's going to create secondary markets. Well, I've got $100 worth of Amazon Coin, but I want to buy something on Windows platform. How do I convert my Amazon Coin into Microsoft Coin? So, who knows what's going to happen? I think it may create a bit of friction. But in terms of Bitcoin, that's probably an unlikely future for these large companies to accept Bitcoin. However, I am super bullish on Lightning. I really think Lightning is the way to go in terms of payments, fast payments. And at the moment, Lightning's a little bit difficult to use. It's a little bit clunky. It's a little bit difficult to get in and out of it. But once they sort of fix those on-ramps and off-ramps, those friction points, I can definitely see more stores accepting Lightning, because why not? Even for someone like Amazon, they would get that extra source of revenue. Amazon's maybe not a good example because, let's be honest, Amazon kind of has an enormous monopoly, so they can kind of do what they want. So I think Bitcoin debit cards are probably the way of the future, and how most Bitcoiners are going to be spending their Bitcoins online and in person.
Thank you, Gordon. And I think that's a good place for us to wrap it up. And everyone, thanks for tuning into Bitcoin Basics Podcast. Please remember to review and rate us on iTunes, Spotify, and go to coincompass.com/free for a lot of free content. Anything else, Gordon?
Well, don't forget to ask your questions. coincompass.com/ask. We're on day 12 of 30, so you have plenty of time to ask us questions. And if you've asked us a question in the past and we didn't give you a good answer, or you want to ask a follow-up question, feel free to do that. So we look forward to receiving more of your questions. And last but not least, please share this on social media. It helps this podcast remain ad-free, and it helps to find other people and spread the word about Bitcoin, people like yourself. So we would appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Catch you next time.
Until next time. Thanks for watching or listening. Please visit coincompass.com/free to register to our socials and discover other free content. Subscribing, liking, and following helps this content remain ad-free. Until next time.